So you're dating a new guy and you're probably wondering, what is his attachment style? Is he a secure attachment? Is he anxious? Is he avoidant? And Gary, wouldn't it be so nice if on a first date you could just ask someone like, dude, what's your attachment style? And get a legit answer. Wouldn't that be so nice?
I would love it. It's like the world's nerdiest dating question, but like the best dating question. And like, ladies,
but don't do it. Don't do it, by the way. Yeah. Don't ask that question. Don't do it.
I love it. I love every bit of it. I love the whole impulse behind it. Cause like sometimes people think like the world's most important questions that they want to ask right up front are like, what's your credit score? What's your political affiliation? How's your mom? Right. And it's like, yeah, like those are important, but they're actually nowhere near as important as, hey, buddy, what's your attachment style?
Yeah, but Gary, let's just be clear here to the listeners. You would never ask someone their credit score on a first date, right? It's something you'd want to ask someone.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we have all the things we want to ask that we think are important, but a lot of times those things that we think are the most important, at least none of them are nearly as essential to relationship outcomes as attachment.
Yes, I love that. It's so true. I mean, we have so many dates. We beat around the bush. We try to find commonalities. Oh, that's nice. Oh, you like Glass Animals? You love that band as well? Like, might be a question I'd ask on a first date, but it's like, it's all noise. It doesn't matter if they like the same band as me. What matters is, are they secure attachment style, regardless of your attachment style? So maybe we should start this with just a quick overview for those who aren't familiar with attachment, what attachment style actually is when it comes to relationships.
Sure. And so attachment style is how you relate emotionally to other people. And so there's two main dimensions of this. It's your comfort with closeness. Like, are you okay becoming emotionally vulnerable, sharing yourself, self-disclosing, just being vulnerable in general? And then the other piece is how anxious you are over being left or anxiety over abandonment. And so someone who's secure, they're good with being close. They're good with emotional intimacy. They're good with vulnerability, opening up. This, without a doubt, is the good style of attachment. And good news, about 65 to 70% of the population is securely attached. This is the thing that you want. And this is why you want to know this information ideally as soon as possible, because there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies on attachment, and 99% of them show a secure attachment is the good one. You want more love, satisfaction, commitment, less cheating, better communicate, all the good stuff. Secure, secure, secure.
Yeah. And men tend to have more avoidant attachment style than women do. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And because it fits very neatly into the stereotype we have about men, that they're standoffish, they don't like to talk. And so men can frankly get away with an avoidant attachment style a little bit easier.
Yeah. So when we're dating, something that's really important is to be thinking not just where you're going to be in this relationship the next 3 months or even 3 years. You want to be thinking, where is this relationship going for the next 30 years? And when you start zooming out on your life, these are the things to really be looking for when you're dating. And so today we're going to be giving you, I believe we have 10 signs of a secure attachment. And this is really what you want to be looking for on a first date or a second date or a third date, or as things continue to move forward in the relationship, because this is what sets you up for that long-lasting 30-year and beyond type of relationship. So Gary, is it worth just kind of jumping in here?
Yeah, I think one thing though I would just like to say is this is so important that we would ideally like to just come right out and ask somebody about this stuff.
Yeah.
But they're not going to know. Right? In the sense that like you could ask like, hey, Dwight, I don't know why I think the guy's name's Dwight.
That's a terrible thing.
But I'm picking that because you're not dating a Dwight. And then some listeners are like, wait, he knows I'm dating Dwight. So you're dating this guy, Dwight. You can be like, hey, Dwight, what's your attachment style? He may not know. And so we're going to talk about some subtle signs of attachment. And so just a word of caution about subtle signs. These are not guarantees that somebody is secure or not necessarily. But what we want you to do is pay attention to these things, and this will allow you to establish a pattern such that more of these things are more indicative of security. Fewer of these things are more indicative of perhaps insecurity. And so this is not like, oh, the guy I'm dating has sign number 4. He's definitely secure. Like, careful. It's not that easy. But it's like, we're going to give you 10 so that you have this sounds nerdy, large data set to work from. So that you have a couple of different things to look for to help you earlier than you're going to figure this stuff out over time anyway. But this is to give you just a little bit of a head start.
Yeah. And I should say, if his name is Dwight, he definitely has an anxious attachment style. I'm just saying, like, he's not secure.
Fair. I don't know. I don't know anybody named Dwight, so
I think of Dwight from The Office.
That's what I was thinking too.
And I don't know if he's anxious, avoidant, or just cuckoo land. Who knows?
I do always worry though if I'm like, this guy Bob, and there's a fair number of people who are dating a guy named Bob, and it feels personal. But like Dwight, I don't know. It seems safe. Seems like a safe.
Yeah. Name. It's okay. People seem to like. And the reason, not to digress here, but I always make fun of accountants, as you all know. And one of our clients at a recent event, she's an accountant. She's like, Adam, when are you going to stop making fun of accountants? I'm like, I chose the profession to make fun of. That's it. I'm sticking with it.
Now you just got to ride it all the way.
Exactly. All right. So why don't we jump into the first one, Gary?
All right. So subtle signs of secure attachment, because you can't come right out and ask them. Number one, I think this is number one intentionally, because I think this is one of the best ones, which is he's had long, fulfilling relationships in the past. Insecure people with insecure attachment have a hard time maintaining long-term, happy, fulfilling relationships. So if your guy has had in the past long, serious, fulfilling, high-quality relationships, that's a really good sign, even if he's divorced. Right? Every once in a while, I have a client that'll say something like, I'm dating this guy. He's divorced. He was married for 15, 20 years, and now he's divorced. So he's probably broke. He's probably not great. It's like, whoa. Actually, he knows how to have a long-term, stable relationship. And, who knows why it ended, but that's actually a pretty good sign that this guy has some security. Because if he was truly insecure or avoidant, especially, chances are he's not making it 15 years. Right.
And it's funny you say that, because I had a client recently. She was talking to a guy who is in his 60s and has never really been in a relationship before, never been married. And she was like, is there a sign to look for there? I'm like, well, it's unlikely he has a secure attachment. Does it mean he can't be in a relationship now? No, but it's definitely a risk. It's a risk factor. In fact, 100%. I'd rather someone who's divorced than someone who's never been in a relationship. So,
yeah, and I think that actually really nicely speaks to that's the point I was trying to make earlier about these are subtle signs. These are risk factor. This helps lower the risk, and none of these by themselves are truly definitive, but you kind of piece it all together. Exactly.
So I think that brings us to the second point, which is that he's also very pleasant. He speaks pleasantly about his past relationships. So he can speak about his past partners, he doesn't have this crazy bitterness about every single ex he's been with. It was awful. He doesn't talk negatively about his exes. Maybe a few things here and there. We get it. There's some challenges with exes, but generally speaking, the breakups were mutual and not too messy. And the way he speaks about the past relationships says a lot about his current attachment. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, a secure guy is not going to trash his ex-partner. Just say, she was the worst, she was horrible, we had all these problems. It's they're just going to, even if they had problems, they just, I think, would respectfully decline to speak about it, especially early on, right? It's just not going to be a priority for them. Because that brings us to number 3. Oh, go ahead.
Please. No. I was going to tell a stupid story. It's all right. I might as well tell it. I was at a party. I was at a party last weekend. I was catching up with a really old friend, and she was telling me about all of her exes and how they're such narcissists and everyone. And she's like, aren't your exes just the worst? I'm like, it's funny you say that. I actually really like all my exes. They were great people. It was a weird moment. It was just a weird moment that I had. I'm like, yeah, it just wasn't a good fit, but they're great people. I don't know. I have nothing but great things to say about my exes.
Well, and it's such a model of security when you can just basically say they're a good person. They're just not a good person for me.
Right.
That's a very secure way of looking at your past relationships. Not a lot of drama, not a lot of turmoil, and all that kind of stuff. And I think, I was going to say that brings us to the third one, which is part of the reason why there's not a lot of drama and turmoil is people who are secure are good with their emotions. They can identify how they feel. They're comfortable discussing their feelings. They're really good with emotional precision. And what I mean by that, the research talks about this as, instead of just saying I'm happy or mad, it's, no, I'm feeling fulfilled. I'm feeling content. I'm feeling upset or frustrated. It's just they're very good with describing and understanding how they feel, which helps them understand how other people feel. It's a form of emotional intelligence. It also makes them very comfortable with emotional intimacy, sharing. They're also really good at keeping themselves calm, cool, and collected. They don't have super duper highs or super duper lows. In nerd speak, we call this emotional regulation. And so they're just not emotionally volatile. They're not easily offended. A subtle way to pick up on your guy's ability to deal with emotions is if he gets cut off in traffic, how's he react? Like, how's that go?
I am definitely insecure attachment if it's that. No, sorry.
No, because like I have friends of mine who it's like they get cut off in traffic and their reaction is like, this guy doesn't know who he's dealing with. Like, who does this guy think he is? And it's like, he's in more of a rush than you are. Like, don't take it personally. And maybe you're not driving around in a car with this guy yet, but like, I do think this is where the waiter, the waitress, the server at the restaurant is also a pretty good sign because something won't quite go right. And some people just have this reaction where it's like, he doesn't know who he's dealing with. Doesn't he know who I am? It's like a secure person just be like, it's okay. Secure people are okay with other people making mistakes. They're quite forgiving about it. It's like good people have bad days. Like that's a very secure way of looking at the world.
Definitely. And unfortunately, with emotional regulation in particular, that's something you might not really learn about until you've been going out with someone for quite a while. Because people usually keep that in check the first couple dates. Like they'll be nice to the server. They'll be nice when they're driving a car. They'll keep it in check. It's once you're maybe in a new relationship with someone or you're pretty far along with that person, you start to see their true reaction and how they respond to their own emotions. So that can be a moment where if you see that, take notice of that, because people who are completely emotionally volatile and are totally just at their own, every emotion they feel, they just have to dive in head first and just go with that, whether it's anger, sadness, even happiness. That is definitely a major concern for a long-lasting relationship, which is an interesting segue to our fourth one, where, and Gary and I can relate to this one as fellow criers, right, Gary?
Let's band together.
We are criers to the degree. He's the type of guy who admits to crying. I know it's kind of a crazy thing to say, and you women might be like, oh my God, that would be so nice to be with a guy who can actually be in touch with his feelings. But like not too much. I don't want him crying all the time. Like a healthy amount of crying. But this is something that you want to be with someone who is comfortable within reason to show their emotions. And it could be a movie you're watching, or it could be a really special moment you have with him. That is typically, again, a good sign of secure attachment.
Yeah, which is really funny because I put this one on here immediately after a mastermind where a client said something to the effect of, I just can't date men who cry. And it was very much well, wait a second, be careful what you wish for there, because you're saying like, you're looking for a guy who's not comfortable with expressing emotion. And so a lot of the guys who have the like, me tough guy, me no cry, right? Like it's like this toxic form of masculinity that, okay, he can be whoever he wants, but like those traits are not conducive to high quality, fulfilling relationships, because fulfilling relationships are about sharing emotion, dealing with emotion, being vulnerable. And the I refuse to cry for any reason type of approach, it leaves you emotionally shut off in a way that's not healthy.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I get why she said that. Like a guy who's crying, especially early on, like that's not hot. It's not exactly going to send you to the bedroom for some white hot sex, blindfold and all this. I get it, but it's different. This is where the true emotional intimacy comes in building a long-lasting partnership. So it's worth thinking about.
It does depend on what it's about, right? It's like you're at a restaurant and it's like, my steak isn't cooked right, bawling. Right? Yeah. That's a different thing. But you have to be comfortable with expressing emotion, which actually brings us to the fifth subtle sign of secure attachment, which is he's able to admit weakness and is able to be self-deprecating, right? He's okay saying what he's not good at. He's okay saying what he needs to work on. He's all right asking for help. He doesn't take himself too seriously. If he screws something up, like he's okay with the self-deprecating humor. It's just, he doesn't have this like really tentative sense of who he is. He's cool with who he is, comfortable in his own skin, and is okay just saying like, yeah, not my strong suit to do blank, whatever it happens to be.
Right. He has a high degree of self-esteem. He's confident in himself. And so there's no, people who are unafraid to show who are afraid to show their weaknesses, they tend to be highly insecure people. And so I think it's a great sign, which actually leads us well to the sixth point, which is that he doesn't avoid conflict. Like, this is one of the things, Gary, I'll say it again, but one of the things I really resonated with your messaging is that conflict is important in relationships. Like, if you don't fight ever in your relationship, someone's not saying something. Like, there's something under the rug happening. And we don't mean like throw the plates against the wall, screaming fights and arguments. We're talking about conflict where you disagree with one another. And, you can disagree without being totally disagreeable, right? You can just disagree with someone and really address issues and do it calmly. And just, you don't avoid the difficult conversations that are required in healthy relationships. Like, there are some times when you're in a relationship, there's something on your mind, and when you bring it up, it ain't gonna go well. You just know it. You're like, this is not going to be well received, but I have to say it. And if he has a secure attachment, he is going to be comfortable bringing those things up, as should you. And that is the only way that a real relationship can work, whether it's romantic, platonic, even professional relationships. You got to cut out the fluff, cut out the BS, and do it with sincerity and kindness, but also be willing to have those courageous conversations.
And I think a big part of being able to deal with conflict is someone who's secure doesn't catastrophize every issue, right? And so this is something you'll see insecure people do, is at the first sign of trouble, it's like, oh gosh, here it is. Here it comes. It's all over. I knew it was going to happen eventually. This is the first step in the demise of our entire, and it's just like that's catastrophic. And it's not true. Secure person doesn't think that, you guys have a fight about how to load the dishwasher is the end of your relationship. It's just like, okay, it's just another thing. Like, right. We'll get through this somehow. They take things as they come and don't worry too much. It's just nothing becomes over important when it comes to some of these conflicts.
Well, and I think just something worth noting, we have a lot of clients in love strategies that we work with who are avoidant or anxious attachment. And they're in relationships and they're really excited and everything's going well. And one of the first things I'll say when our clients are in a new relationship is conflict is coming. And that's okay. Like, that is okay. Prepare yourself. And because we could be in this honeymoon phase of a new relationship, especially if we're not secure, because there's plenty of people who are listening that are not secure and they're like, oh God, I struggle with conflict. And if you can just go into new relationships realizing that that is going to happen because you're two imperfect human beings that have different opinions, different thoughts, different life experiences. If you go into it realizing that you're going to have conflict moments and you just got to work through them and have the courage to speak your mind when it's appropriate, that's the key to everything. And not run away at the very first sign that, you're not getting along, because it's going to happen.
Yeah. And just at a general level, you're secure if you can think about you and your relationship partner with a matter-of-fact attitude about the possibility that, things aren't always going to go well, right? If you think that thought and you're like, yeah, of course. I mean, that's just how it goes. that's a good sign of security. If you're like, oh, things aren't going to go well. Oh no. Oh no. Then
Right.
that's less secure, right? Um, so the seventh subtle sign is he's not unnecessarily competitive with you or with others, right? Because here's the thing with competition. Competition is about creating distance. Security is about being collaborative. And so someone who's secure isn't going to be competitive with you. They're going to be cheering you on. They're going to be deferential to you and your activities. They're going to be supportive of your goals and ambitions. They don't always have to come first. A secure person knows that in the relationship, there are going to be times, days, weeks, or months where I go first because of whatever's going on. But there's also going to be plenty of days, weeks, months, years where you go first. And we share and we pass that back and forth. It doesn't always have to be me first, you second, right? That's an insecure way of looking at things. And so the other thing is with the competitiveness and you can look at how they treat others is, do they punch down? What I mean by that is someone who's secure isn't going to pick on people who are below them, whether that's employer, employee, or, a service person at a restaurant or someone that's parking your car. They're just not going to take shots at people who are not at their level. Right? It's just, they're not going to take shots at anybody in general, but they're just not going to approach the world in a way where it's like, I got to show them better than everybody, because they're just comfortable. Again, they're comfortable in their own skin. They're comfortable being close. They're not worried about everybody's perceptions all the time. They're secure.
They're not going to kick you when you're down. You give a presentation at work and you come home and you're like, oh my God, I totally messed that up. They're not going to say, you should have prepared more. I told you to. What were you thinking doing that? They'd be like, honey, you got it next time. I'm here for you. No problem. They don't kick you when you're down. So moving on to number 8 is that he's not needy, basically. He doesn't require reassurance or constant attention that says, oh my God, I like this one. This is my favorite. I'm the best guy you've ever dated, right? Right? Like leading questions to get you to be like, oh yeah, of course, you're the most amazing man. Oh, but I'm like really good in bed, right? Oh, you're the best primo. It's like, come on, dude. Like, again, that's a huge sign of insecurity if someone has to ask questions like that. He's not the type of guy who will need constant texting, constant reassurance of where you are in the relationship. All of these things, which really leads us to the ninth one. I'll just kind of put these two together. He doesn't need to monitor you either. He doesn't need to know where you are at every single second of the day. He doesn't need to be, again, checking in with you to make sure that you're not talking to other guys. He doesn't need to check your whereabouts or anything like that. Or of course, check your location. And that is a weird trend, by the way, that a lot of people are moving towards, which is sharing their location with their partner. To me, that's like cuckoo. Gary, do you share your location?
No.
Yeah, okay, I didn't think so.
Because it's like where I'm almost always in the same 2 spots.
Yeah.
Like maybe 3 spots but it's just unnecessary.
It's
because
so unnecessary.
Why would I? And I never, ever check where my wife is.
No.
Like we have that Life 360 app because we have a teenager. And so I don't even check where my teenager is that much because I am a hyper secure person. So I operate on a basic level of trust. Like my daughter is super mature, super capable, super responsible. So I just basically trust her to make good choices. So I don't need to where is she on the map now? Like I don't need that information. But I do think this is one of those things where people who are secure don't require reassurance. And if you're not secure, it'll be weird that your guy who is secure doesn't ask how things are going. He's not constantly checking in. You're going to think he doesn't text enough. You're going to think he doesn't care enough. And sometimes you're misreading those signals as it's not that he doesn't care or he doesn't trust, or it's actually that he trusts a lot. He's just okay with being secure. Because I think there's the whereabouts, like where are you in the world, but it's also the whoabouts. It's like, who are you with? A secure guy, you're going to say, yeah, me and my friends, we're going out Friday night. Secure guy's going to go, cool, have fun.
Right.
We're going to be like, wait a second. He didn't ask. who I'm going with, where I'm going, who is going to be there. Are there going to be other guys there? Oh gosh, maybe that means he doesn't care. No, it's actually the opposite. He's just okay with you going wherever you're going because he trusts you implicitly. Like that's a really good sign.
Right. This reminds me, I was on a bachelor party. I'm too old for bachelor parties now, but I was on one earlier this year in New Orleans. And this guy that I didn't know very well, he's a friend of the groom, soon to be groom. And he was on his phone all night. And at one point, I saw that he was texting with some woman. He's like, oh yeah, I'm texting with my wife. She just keeps asking me where we are. I'm like, why does she even need to know? He's like, dude, she makes me share my location. And so every time I've moved bars, she keeps texting me like, where am I now? Like, is it a good time? Am I having fun? And I'm like, oh, so she's sitting at home in a different state, just looking at where you're going from bar to bar on a bachelor party. Come on. Like I had to fight every part. All I was like, oh, you share your location? Nice. Okay. And I walked away because I don't know the guy. I don't care. But it was just such like a ludicrous moment where I'm like, I would never, ever want to do that with my wife, nor would she want to do that with me. It's so strange.
And as a secure person, if I was single and somebody asked me to do that, that would be an automatic next moment deal. Like just no.
Done.
Out. Like absolutely not. And I get someone's gonna be like, oh, well, you're only saying no because you're doing something shady. No, I'm doing it because we gotta trust each other. Like that is bedrock stuff in a relationship. And that just screams neediness, lack of trust. Like, no.
No, not for me. Not for me.
All right. So the last subtle sign of secure attachment is there's more to his life than the relationship.
Right.
And I say this one for last because I think this one can sometimes be hard for people to hear, is that we want to be in some ways the center of our partner's universe. We want them to make our relationship their top priority at all times. And I think that is a completely natural and human want. But a secure person will recognize that that's a want, but it's not terribly realistic, nor probably should it be at all times. Like there are other things to your life than your relationship partner. And I say that as someone who loves love, right? Like there just has to be other stuff that leads to fulfillment in your life. And so sometimes we will see people, he's got these other activities and work and he's got friends. And it's like, he just doesn't have time for me. And it's like, well, okay, like you want to be a priority, but the fact that he's got other things going on is a good sign. He's not putting it all on the relationship, because who puts their whole life into their one relationship? People who are insecure. So this being able to have multiple priorities is actually a really good sign.
Yeah. And that is a common theme when people get, again, to little love step 6 in a new exclusive committed relationship. And it goes from this kind of like hot and heavy phase to now he starts to quote unquote pull away, as in he starts to focus on work. He starts to focus on his friends and he starts to do other things without you. We call it the cool down period. And that is perfectly normal. And in fact, it's a great sign. It means that he is putting his, especially if it's work, that's a big one. I know people get frustrated, but it's like, if a man is in a new exclusive relationship and now he starts focusing his attention on work, it's likely he means he's intending to start a life with you, right? Like he's now getting serious. He's like, oh, I'm with a girl that I really like. I'm with a woman that I really want to get serious about. I gotta hunker down. I gotta make this happen. I gotta set up my life and prepare it for that woman. I know that that's how I was.
Yeah, when I married. It's the male equivalent of nesting.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, right. You want your guy out there, like bringing back the resource. And he's like, okay, got the woman, got to have the resources to get this thing going. And it's actually a really good sign. And it's a sign of security because you don't need the constant reassurance. It's not the constant checking in. You can go a little while without seeing each other or hearing it, because I think the default thing, and I just was talking to clients the other night about this. I think if you want to look at what secure looks like, look at how you are with your best friend. Almost every best friend pairing has a secure relationship. You don't constantly wonder where your best friend is or what they're doing or who they're with or how recently you've talked, because you have this implicit trust that like, we're going to pick right back up where we left off the next time we see each other. The benefit with a romantic partner is you just get to see them more often, typically. But how you act when you're not together with your romantic partner should be very similar to how you act with your best friends.
Amen. So with all that said, secure attachment men exist on the planet. They are out there. Use these 10 signs as kind of tools in your toolkit to get out there, be able to identify those guys, lean into the guys who are secure, lean out from the guys who are avoidant or insecure, and go have some fun out there. There's amazing people who you can spend the rest of your life with. So that was a lot of fun, Gary. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Adam.